and close the door properly. Hello, hi everyone, and welcome to this session. Thank you, GMAT Club, for hosting us. This session will talk all about INSEAD MBA. So I hope you're excited. I hope you're in the right session. Let me just introduce myself very quickly. My name is Shimri Winters. I head the strategy team here at the ARINGO MBA admission consulting firm. I'm a London Business School alumnus. Yes, London Business School. And soon I'll tell you why I know quite a lot about INSEAD. A bit more about me. I have a computer science undergraduate degree. I used to work as a programmer before my MBA. And currently, in the last 7 years, I've been working at ARINGO MBA admissions full-time. This is what we do. A bit about ARINGO. I mean, we've been going on for 18 years. We're very good. We help candidates get into top MBA programs. And I think that's enough about ARINGO. The reason I'm actually giving a presentation about INSEAD is, I told you we're very good. We have audited statistics. Check us out. INSEAD is actually probably the school we work on the most, with the most amount of candidates. Also, our stats are very, very high on our INSEAD acceptance rates. Again, check us out. That was the only marketing slide in this presentation. Let's go. So this is the agenda. I will be looking at the chat on YouTube Live. So if you guys have questions, you can ask me all the time on the YouTube. I will see it. The only thing is I'll probably only address the questions at the end of this presentation. So you can write them as we go along, but I will answer the questions at the end of the presentation. So just a bit about the agenda. I think I would split this presentation into two. The first part of the presentation will touch the general things about INSEAD, maybe the numbers, the statistics, things like that. I just want all of us to be on the same page. Okay, if after 10 minutes you've decided INSEAD is not the school for you, maybe, please close this presentation, because the next half an hour will be how to get into INSEAD, and I'll be discussing the INSEAD application. So again, a few minutes about INSEAD generally, and then a lot of minutes about how to get into INSEAD, and then I'll just be answering questions if you have any. So I hope you don't have any questions regarding the agenda, and let's kick this show. Let's get it started. Okay, so just now, a few general things about INSEAD. You know, there are a lot of MBA rankings, and a lot of people ask me, okay, what's the best school in the world? Or what's the second best school in the world? Or what's, so yeah, I've just put here some logos of MBA rankings. There's lots of rankings, but I think we can all agree that INSEAD is one of the best schools in the world. Financial Times ranking, which is the ranking I usually use when I look at non-US schools, has ranked INSEAD as #1 in the world. And if you look consistently in the last 5 years, they're ranked between 1 and 3 or 4 globally, consistently. So, and also Forbes magazine ranks INSEAD very, very high in their MBA ranking. So I think it's fair to say that INSEAD is one of the best schools in the world. Is it the best? Are they better schools? Debatable. And I'll also discuss that. So a bit about the stats. I mean, INSEAD is quite an established school. It's a business school, which is why a lot of people which are out of this business world, let's call them my mother, don't know INSEAD, which is fine, because my mother has never recruited MBAs. So she might know the schools in the US because she watches a lot of television, and maybe she saw a Hollywood movie where the character goes and studies in Duke. This doesn't mean INSEAD isn't one of the top schools. It is. It's a bit unique because it has 2 intakes every year. That means you can start studying both in January and in September. And you might have some questions about that, and we'll discuss them. There's 2 main campuses, one in France, one in Singapore. There's also a campus in Dubai, which mainly focuses on executive MBAs and executive education. You can see here the tuition costs and the number of students a year. The average salary is actually something that I found various statistics on various sites. Much higher numbers on some sites. Some sites take alumni, some sites take alumni 3 years later. We are talking about 6-digit salaries. You can see the average GMAT is pretty high. And I think the rest is pretty self-explanatory. So that's just a few numbers about INSEAD. I said this is the boring part. Few minutes just so we're all on the same ground about INSEAD Business School. I'm not going to go into this rigorous table, but the bottom line is that INSEAD is 10 months of education, the MBA, and the first part or the first parts of your MBA will be core courses. Okay, so there's a lot of business foundations and finance and marketing and entrepreneurship and all different operational management, and also various soft courses. The second part of your MBA will be more around electives. You can choose the electives that you want to study. INSEAD doesn't have a specific specialization. This means you can come and select out of numerous electives the courses that interest you. Are you interested in finance? Are you interested in marketing, interested in entrepreneurship, etc.? So I hope it's all good. I can't see any questions yet. I hope you're still following me, and we're still just in the basics about INSEAD. INSEAD has a lot, because the course is quite short, it has a lot of leadership programs and a lot of career development resources. INSEAD has a huge career services platform that can help each of the students think about what kind of job they want post-MBA and also find that specific job. So we'll discuss where the students go and work afterwards in about one slide. This slide was called before strengths and weaknesses of the INSEAD program. And I think every differentiator at INSEAD is the strength and the weakness. So the program is very short. This is amazing because the return on investment is much quicker than a 2-year program in the US. On the other hand, yes, it's very fast-paced. It's a bit, there's a lot of pressure. You have to find a job very quickly. You have to network all the time. So I usually say, it's an amazing program, amazing brand, of course, very international, and lots of advantages. But is it right for you to do such an intense program? And again, it works for a lot of people, and some other people might want, a longer program. One other factor that I would consider is the location. A lot of the candidates I speak to, I ask them, what do you want to do and where do you want to do that? And the answer is sometimes the US. Now, if your dream is to work in Uber in the Silicon Valley, don't go to INSEAD. I'm not saying that Uber doesn't recruit from INSEAD or INSEAD graduates don't go and work at Uber. I definitely am not saying that, and I'll show you that they do. But I think it's fair to say that a very high percentage of Berkeley or UCLA alumni work in the Silicon Valley post-MBA, unlike a very little percentage of INSEAD graduates who work post-MBA in the Silicon Valley. And I think the location is very important for your decision which business school is right for you. But the courses might be very similar, even the brand. Again, there are other very, very, very good top business schools. And the main difference might be the location. So you have to think about that when choosing a business school. In terms of, again, some of the academics, well, there's various types of study methods, but INSEAD, like a lot of other top business schools, has a high emphasis on case studies. This means when you enter a class and it's about marketing or pricing things, the professor won't say, he might say, but usually they won't say, open, book number 3, page number 10, and read me the first paragraph. No, it will be more about, here's your assignment for the class tomorrow. It's about Body Shop, or it's about EasyJet, or it's about Coca-Cola, and this is how how EasyJet prices their tickets. And for tomorrow, I want you to think, are they using an optimal model, or can they price the tickets very differently? So there's a lot of case studies, okay? For example, like I said, how does EasyJet price the tickets? Or another case study can be, there's a new startup that wants to start selling their products in a new geography. Okay, and that you would start talking about that, and that would be a marketing lesson. The classroom is very loud. There's a lively exchange of people shouting, talking. The students are so strong and they come from such incredible backgrounds that you really want to hear from their experiences. You want to hear what they have to say about the pricing of EasyJet tickets. So it's not just the professor talking and you reading out a book. No, it doesn't work that way. It's usually a whole discussion around something. And again, the class brings a lot of input as well as all the professors. There's a lot of student clubs. Some of them are professional. For example, private equity club, marketing club, finance club, tech club, luxury goods club. And there's a lot of fun clubs, okay? Cheese and wine club. That would be a social club. Or the Indian club. And there's some sports clubs, etc. So there's a lot of stuff to do, between class. This is a 5 to 7 days a week, 9 to plus hours a day of experience. Okay. I haven't done statistics, so I'll lie about this, but in my candidates, around a quarter to a third go to INSEAD at least with a partner. Some of them even with kids, but definitely with partners. This is great because INSEAD is very supportive for partners, and partners there's actually some clubs for partners, the Partners Club, and there's some activities which are built specifically for families. So I would say INSEAD specifically is a school that's quite open for people that are coming with partners and families. And again, I think I discussed this the last slide. There's a lot of career coaching and career development, both on a one-to-one basis and on an all-to-one basis and one-to-all basis with career fairs, career coaching. A lot of the clubs help the students try and get into the specific industry they want, like the consulting club, etc. So there's a lot of on-campus recruiting, off-campus recruiting, but they're all initiated from the various school activities. Okay, so that was a bit of a general information. Just where do the students work? So I think, a lot of people tell me, oh, INSEAD's all about consulting. So I think the stats do show that. And there is definitely, a lot of consulting, and a lot of alumni go and work in management consulting firms like McKinsey, Bain, BCG, etc. These statistics are taken from LinkedIn, and they're just showing the entire INSEAD alumni base and where, what industry do they work in today. Keep in mind that this is data that, let's say everybody that finished INSEAD in the last 20 years goes on LinkedIn. But I think if I took the data today, it would look a bit different. I think, tech would be a bit bigger, consulting would probably be a bit smaller. And there's just industry, okay? There's a lot of graduates who go and work for Pepsi, or go and work for a books company, publishers, oil and gas, government. Okay, so there's a lot of opportunities from INSEAD, and when I speak to INSEAD staff and admissions, they always want to talk about tech and entrepreneurship. And when you say, oh, but you're all about consulting, they're really far away from that, and they say, that's one of the options, but definitely there's other options as well. And when I looked this year at the INSEAD stats, I saw that 9% were recruited to leadership programs. So I saw a very interesting leadership program at General Electric. Every 6 months, you do a different position at General Electric, and after 2 years, you decide in which department to be. Let me get a sip of my tea. And there's various other companies who recruit for general leadership programs. A lot of companies come to recruit at INSEAD. It's a very, very desirable degree, and also the companies are looking for MBAs from INSEAD. Okay, here are some of the top recruiters in no real order. So definitely you'll see here, the three here we discussed, consulting. but you can also see the Amazon and Google and Uber and Apple. You can also see various finance institutions, so Goldman Sachs, MasterCard, and again, there's just very general companies sometimes that come and recruit. Okay, they can be marketing companies, luxury brand companies, I don't know, oil and gas, any company. Okay, so that was the first, I am not counting, but the 10-15 minutes about INSEAD. Now, this is a very nice letter that my candidate received 2 days ago, I think. I can't remember if it was on Friday or Monday, so 2 or 4 days ago. Guess what? She got into INSEAD. Yay! Now, how do you get in? So, if I didn't persuade you that INSEAD is a great school till now, again, you can drop the session. But if you want to hear more, right, let's dig in a bit to what INSEAD are looking for. And how do I write a compelling application to get into INSEAD? So that's the next topics of this discussion. And again, I can see the YouTube questions, so please start asking questions, and I'll try and answer some of them as we go along or then. I just want to clarify that this presentation talks about the full-time MBA at INSEAD. Okay, I'm happy to address, and I left my email at the beginning, and I'll also show it at the end. I'm happy to address executive MBA questions, master in finance questions, master in management questions, all great. But this presentation is about the full-time MBA at INSEAD. So what are INSEAD looking for? So if you look on the website, I saw 4 pillars that they're specifically saying they're interested in. And I've added also a few of my own, but INSEAD's 4 pillars are, the first one is academic. Okay, so yes, this is a yes. INSEAD are looking for academic people. Funnily enough, this is one of the only schools, one of the only top schools in the world that will also consider a candidate without an undergraduate degree. Okay, this is a very rare case. I think I have 2 or 3 candidates every year that do not have an undergraduate degree that apply to INSEAD and some other top schools. By the way, top schools in Europe, the top US schools do not accept candidates without an undergraduate degree. But for the less rare candidates, they will definitely look at your undergraduate degree. They will even more, or put a higher emphasis on your GMAT. I would say that your GMAT can be 30% from your total application. So the GMAT is very, very important. And the undergraduate degree can be maybe 10%. Okay, so the first thing that INSEAD will look at is, are you academic enough? This is a degree. Are you academic enough for this degree? The second thing, if I'm going against the clockwise, is leadership potential. If you've managed people, fantastic. If you haven't, less fantastic. But what INSEAD would like to see is there any leadership potential? Okay, can you show us that you don't manage people directly, but maybe you have some kind of potential? And I'll show you later in your resume, in your essays, how can you show leadership potential? I'll give a little hint. You can train an intern. You can show something from your extracurricular activities. You can show something from your university experience. You can show something at work, maybe something social. Okay, but this is important for INSEAD because they would like to find leaders of tomorrow. And if they want to find the leaders of tomorrow, they want to see that you have some kind of leadership potential. This is a pillar which is a bit different than other business schools, but INSEAD put a lot of emphasis on international motivation. What does that mean? If you have international experience, that would be the best, okay? But not everyone went to Germany for 3 years relocation. So international motivation can be worked with international teams, worked with international clients, travel the world. You know how to cope in a diverse environment. And this is super important for them because you're going to have, just in your class, people from tens of countries that work in different ways, have very strange accents, and they want to make sure that you know how to work with these kinds of people. And that's why they want to see this motivation. And last but not least, this is a very important pillar, ability to contribute. You remember I told you the class is very lively. There's a lot of discussions in the class. And it's great that you have a good GMAT, and it's fantastic that you worked at Deloitte for 4 years or whatever. But if you're not able to contribute to the class, this is something a very soft skill. It's very hard to see this in your application. But if I don't think you'll be adding value to the class, you're not a good candidate. Where can you show this? Again, I will show you in the resume, in the essays, even in the recommendation letters, how you can prove this to the school. I have to admit, this is one of the main factors that the school looks for in an interview as well. I used to interview for London Business School for 8 years, and I sometimes interviewed people that had great GMATs and great work experience, but they were so boring, okay? And they just didn't have any hobbies, or just, they were very shy, or something was so boring with them that I just couldn't see them add value to the class. And, they didn't pass the interview. I did add a few other things. Definitely, MBA, unlike nearly every other degree, looks for professional experience. Okay, so there's a minimum of 2 years of professional experience. Usually they would be looking for 3 or 4 years minimum. As you saw, the average is 6 years of professional experience. And I can see a lot of questions about this in the chat. I can already answer that, but I'll answer also the questions in the end. There's no maximum, but I would say for candidates that have more than 10 years of professional post-undergraduate experience, this is starting to put you in the orange zone. And if you have more than 12 years of professional experience, this is starting to put you in the red zone. Okay, so you won't find this written down anywhere. There's no maximum. But think, INSEAD want to find you a job quite easily in one of the recruiters that's coming to campus to recruit MBAs at a certain salary with a certain background. And if you have 20 years of experience, you just don't fit that kind of square, and it will make INSEAD's life very difficult to recruit you. And they'll say, go to the executive MBA, but don't come to this, full-time MBA. So it's not just a question of, do you want the school? But if you have a lot of experience, it might be a question of, do they want you? So just to answer that, after 10 years, starting to be a bit orange. More than 12 years, that's starting to be a big problem. I'm not saying it's a no-no, but it's starting to get there. Okay. So professional excellence is important to show some kind of progress in your career to date. And it doesn't matter what industry. A lot of people say, well, I'm not a strategy consultant for McKinsey. That's fine. I showed you an acceptance letter, right, 3 slides ago. That specific candidate was in university. She volunteered in a specific student body. Post her degree, she continued in this specific student body in a paid position. And she did that for 5 years. Not consulting, not accounting, not marketing, not tech. So there's various positions you can be. You can be a waiter. But I do want to see some kind of professional excellence. So if you're just a waiter for 4 years, that's probably not enough. But if you're a waiter that became a shift manager, that wants an MBA because he wants to be a restaurant owner, that makes sense. We'll talk about that a bit more in the essays. Very important to show school interest. INSEAD get thousands of candidates and applications a year. If they will think that INSEAD is not your number one choice, for example, if they think your essays are copied and pasted from somewhere else, or even your recommender is saying, I really recommend Shimri for Harvard Business School, and this is INSEAD, so it's obvious he's also filling out something for Harvard. This is a problem. You really want to show INSEAD that this is your number one choice, okay? And we'll discuss how to show this. Vision is something important. Remember my waiter? He explained to INSEAD why he wants an MBA, right? Because he wants to be a restaurant owner. If you're a programmer, I used to be a programmer. And then I was a team leader. I led 2 people. And then I explained to the MBA program that I want an MBA because I want to be a program manager or product manager, sorry. and then I want to open a startup. That all makes sense. I have some kind of vision. And broad horizons, again, I can kind of put it together what I said before about the ability to contribute. It's great that you're professional. It's great that you're academic. Now show me something else. Be interesting. It can be, there's no specific, there's no secrets, okay? There's no formulas. Be you, but be interesting. I started working now with a candidate who just loves animals. Okay, he really loves animals. He goes to volunteer once a week. He contributes. He donates money. He runs marathons and collects money for animal organizations. Great. I love that. Okay, it's interesting. It means he's passionate about something. So, you know, that's the kind of broad horizons, etc. And I love the questions on the chat. I'm not going to answer them now. I love them. I can see. I love the one about professional. You know, if I want to go back to same industry, we'll discuss that. So, what do I need? Fine, Shimri. I'm convinced. I want to apply to INSEAD. You know, just tell me what I need to do. Okay. So actually, the application is quite easy. Okay. If English is not your native language, so if you don't live in an English-speaking country or your university wasn't in English, you'll have to do an English proficiency test. Okay, whoever speaks good English, these tests are not very difficult. If your English is not good, that's a problem. So the degree is in English. So this is just a prerequisite. Again, it doesn't go into your 100 points or percentage of your application. It's a yes, no. In the TOEFL, INSEAD asks for 105 plus. It's out to 120. Again, if you're not a native English speaker, just go and take this test. I'll actually go to the third thing here. You need to pay 250 euros to register to INSEAD. Tough luck, but pretty easy. It's just money. And the third thing is, again, you need an undergraduate degree. It's not mandatory, but most candidates will have it. Please approach your university. Tell them you're thinking of studying at INSEAD. They'll know what to give you. Okay, they'll give you the transcripts. They'll give you some kind of certificate of your degree. Great. The last prerequisite is quite a tough one, and it's called GMAT or GRE. Funny, I had 2 or 3 conversations this week with people who rang me and said, listen, I really want INSEAD. I don't want to do the GMAT. And my answer was tough luck. And they said, well, I have like very special circumstances. I said, stop. It doesn't matter what your special circumstances are. You need a GMAT. Well, my parents, stop. INSEAD requires a GMAT or a GRE. Okay, same, by the way. INSEAD, don't mind if you bring a GMAT or GRE. You don't need to ask that on the chat. As you saw, the average GMAT is 711 points. INSEAD don't advertise the average GRE. I'm assuming it's around 325, but that's just my assumption, give or take 2 points. Don't catch me on that specific number. It's around that area. Like I said, there's no way to overcome this, to not take a GMAT or GRE. I've had candidates this year with very low GMATs, but it was a COVID strange year, and they were different things. I've had a 610 and a 630 get into INSEAD. On a normal year, like 2 years ago, I've had a 640 with a very special profile get into INSEAD. I've had a 660 with quite a normal profile get into INSEAD. But these should be your very, very, very minimums. And again, the closer you are to the average or above the average, the better. Remember, the GMAT is also some kind of threshold, and it's also about 30% of your application. So if your GMAT is, you know, very low and you're getting 5 out of 30, it's going to be super hard to get an interview from INSEAD unless, you know, you're a Nobel Prize winner and you invented something and you sold your startup for $100 million. You know, you probably need a GMAT which is closer to the average of the school. Okay, let's say you have these prerequisites. I've stopped apologizing every time I take a sip, so I apologize for not apologizing. Now, all you need to do is submit an application. Okay, it's pretty simple. All you need to do is an online application. Okay, you know, it's not, INSEAD isn't that long, the online application. You need an MBA resume. INSEAD actually have a template on their site. I've a lot of times used a different template. That's fine, but you need an MBA resume, and we'll talk about that in the next slide. INSEAD require 7 mandatory essays. This is the longest MBA application that I know of in the top 50 schools. There are also 2 optional essays, so a lot of essays, and we're going to discuss them one by one very shortly. And INSEAD require 2 recommenders to write on your behalf 2 recommendation letters. Okay, so you don't submit the recommendations, you submit names of your recommenders, and they will submit the recommendations on your behalf. So I can see lots of questions, and we're going to dig into the essays. So what I'm going to do, and the 3 elements, the resume, the essays, the letter of recommendation, I'll actually answer some of the questions very quickly now. Okay? So question number 1, will there be a recording? This is YouTube. You can just always find it. So another person's asking, has INSEAD become synonymous with entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs? So there's a lot of entrepreneurship at INSEAD lately. So that's a very good question. And again, you remember I said, I actually think they're famous for consulting, but there's a lot of tech and entrepreneurship there. The results for January are being sent out as we speak. So yes, I just showed you a candidate that got from round 1, but still there's 4 rounds in every time. So there's lots of other rounds this year to get into January 22. 2 years experience is a bit low, okay? And you're borderline for Master in Management and MBAs. So you need to, again, I don't know what your 2 years of experience are, but that is on the low side. So if they're amazing, you can definitely apply for INSEAD. I had a 24-year-old last year, okay, who had a degree and 2 years of experience. He did work a bit during his degree as well, but that is a bit low. I don't think there's any impact of COVID on future INSEAD classes. Probably still on January 2022, because a lot of the September 21 class, you know, if people are coming from places with high COVID numbers like India, they might ask for deferral. So there might be still deferrals for January. So January class might still be a bit harder to get into due to a lot of deferrals. But if we're looking at September 22 and onwards, I'm just leaving COVID out of it. And let's hope all of us leave COVID out of it. I answered INSEAD, don't mind GMAT or GREs. Okay, so do whichever test you think you can get into. I'm just answering questions very quickly before we dig into the essays. 8 years of experience is absolutely fine. As long as it's less than 12, it's fine. Less than 10, even better. Yes, people without an undergraduate degree or with a low GPA is fine, as long as you can compensate with a high GMAT and a very good application. I think we are going to now continue, and I will continue with the questions later. There's lots of scholarship options at INSEAD. Around 10 to 20,000 euros is the most common scholarship I've seen. INSEAD are absolutely fine with people returning to their company and to their industry. That's something good. That's not something bad. That's it. I'm cutting now the questions, and I'll return to all the questions later. Actually, you know what? I'll just answer. Someone asked, does someone from India need a TOEFL? The answer is no. If your degree was in English, it's absolutely fine. Okay, now, if someone's considering INSEAD in 4 or 5 years, again, you can leave this presentation because I'm actually digging into the elements of the application right now. So let's discuss the resume, the essays, and the recommendations. I can already tell you the essays part is going to be long. Lots of essays. Okay, so what's the process? So we discussed it a bit. You apply and you have the prerequisites and you submit your resume, the essays, the letters of recommendation, the online application. You pay 250 euros. Great. You press submit. The first thing that happens is you get an email that you need to submit a video interview. This is an element that was added 3 years ago, something like this. It's not very difficult. There's 2 questions. You have 1 minute to think and then 1 minute to answer. And I think you know 1 question in advance. Again, this is a new component. There's lots of info about it on the net, on ARINGO.com website. It's not a very big component. Then all you can do is wait. You need to bite your nails a bit, and you have to wait and see if INSEAD has selected you for an interview. If they haven't, that's it. Your application is finished, and INSEAD will filter out or will ding, or whichever nice word you want to say for not selecting you for an interview. Quite a lot of the candidates. I don't have the official numbers, but the number is bigger than 50%. Okay, so a lot of the candidates will be filtered out at this stage. Their application wasn't good enough or interesting enough for INSEAD to be selected for an interview. The next stage is, if you were selected, is you have an interview. INSEAD are a bit different than many schools. They have 2 interviews. Typically, the interviews are with alumni. Usually, you will, again, depends where you live. The interviews will be face-to-face with local alumni. I've had German candidates interviewed by German alumni face-to-face. Naturally, in the last year, a lot of the interviews have been conducted through Zoom or other online platforms. Once you have had the 2 interviews, all you can do is bite your nails a bit more, and then there's the decision regarding your acceptance or not. And then you get a nice phone call and a nice letter from INSEAD. You've been accepted. Okay, now let's talk about the 3 big elements. Okay, the resume, the essays, and the letters of recommendation. So the resume, I haven't written a lot about this. I think the most important part in a resume, in an MBA resume, is your professional part. Okay, INSEAD's resume should be 1 page only. Okay, no exceptions. For your full-time MBA at INSEAD, 1 page only. I think the professional part should be between 1/3 to 2/3 of the page, of the 1 page only. Typically, it would be over half, okay? Because this is probably the most important part. What have you been doing until now, professionally? Again, this is very different than other degrees where perhaps your academic experience is the most important. Here, your professional experience is probably the most important part. How do you write an MBA, an INSEAD good resume? So I used to be a programmer before my MBA, and I don't remember my resume, but I think it said, the first line said, knows C++. And the second bullet probably said, I love programming in object-oriented, whatever, tech language. But my London Business School application, or my INSEAD resume, I applied to INSEAD as well, said, led a project worth $5 million. Or it said, managed 2 people and in charge of 6 others in a matrix organization. So first of all, you can see there's a lot of responsibilities, not what I do, but what are my responsibilities. Before that even, I should always have a good company description. And even if you work for Deloitte or EY or Barclays Bank, yes, describe the company you're working for. Describe it obviously in a very good way. Well, you can see the example down here. The professional is the experience part in your resume is the best way to highlight achievements without, doing it in a modest way. I got a merit, I got a big bonus, I got promoted very fast. These are facts. Okay, these are accomplishments. I'm not being subjective here. I'm being objective. I was promoted faster than my peers. I got a huge bonus. I sold 150% more than last year. These are very, very objective, quantifiable results that I did. And these are my responsibilities, and this is what I've done. Obviously, highlight any award or any honors or anything else. You see, I put here in capitals, accomplishments. And here you have an example. This is a real case of a lawyer that, wrote, I'm a lawyer dealing with real estate. And this is how his INSEAD MBA resume should look like. Should have a nice company description, okay? And it says the biggest law firm in Germany. That's interesting. And he's leading a team, and he's responsible for a project worth X amount of money. Okay, so there's different ways to put this in the resume, but this is how it should look. There are 2 other parts of the resume, at least 2. Sometimes there's a 4th one if you publish books, or if you have publications, or if you want to split community activity from your hobbies. There's no rules about this. You can do whatever you want and however you feel the resume will make you shine. The academics is very important. Again, remember, it was like 40% of the total, but the GMAT is around 30. So I wouldn't put an emphasis too much on all the courses you took at university. That's a bit less important. But anything that can make you special, I could differentiate you, Okay, did you do an exchange somewhere? That's nice. Did you get some kind of merit? Are you on the dean's list? Okay, I think I was on the dean's list in my second year. My first and my first year was terrible. So obviously I didn't mention the first year. My GPA wasn't so good. I didn't mention the GPA. But what I did mention was second year dean list. Okay, because that's impressive. If I had if I was I wasn't. If I were a top 15% in my class, I would show it. Okay, so if you have something interesting, show it, explain it, shine with something specific. One other thing is, and only if you've had it, is if you did some kind of full-time or part-time activity during your academics. For example, if you helped manage a certain student's club or you volunteered somewhere. I actually had now, I don't know, one of the most interesting volunteering experiences I heard is I spoke now to a student. I'm doing him some kind of a career coaching, 5 years ahead of his MBA. And he's actually leading the student association's request from his university to pay less tuition due to COVID. All the classes are online. Why is he paying 100% of the tuition? And, he has a case, I think. And it's very interesting. He actually took this as his project. And, obviously he has the backing of, thousands of students, and he collected their signatures, and he actually got a lawyer, and he contacted the university, and he's negotiating with them something. And I think that there was already a result. I think they gave back the money for books or something. Okay, so not very much, but a bit. So that's a very, very interesting volunteering or student-led activity that he can add. And that makes him shine, because that makes him different than other students that just went to university just to study. Okay. And last but not least is the extracurricular activities. This is super, super important. Remember, I told you before, INSEAD are looking for people to contribute to the class. And if you're academic, great. If you have professional experience, great. But if you're a dry biscuit, okay, someone that just doesn't add to the class, very boring, that's a problem. And to you accountants out there that work in audit, okay, so I think 20 to 25% of my candidates are accountants, and a lot of them work in audit. And then a lot of times I ask them, what's your biggest achievement? And the biggest achievement a lot of times is, the report of a company came out on time. Now that's super boring, okay? But it is a huge achievement, right? You've been working for 6 months on this, public listing company, and the report is huge, and there may be 10 people involved. And I understand, but it still sounds a bit boring, right? The report came out on time. So a way to make it more interesting is, even in your extracurricular activities. Okay, so you're an accountant, but you love cooking Italian food, okay? And you love dogs, and whatever, you participate in some kind of sport. Also, it can be a great place to make you interesting, it can also be a great place to supplement your, I wouldn't say weaknesses, but areas that you're not so strong in. For example, if you've never led anyone at work, okay, a lot of lawyers that I have can be lawyers for 5 years, but they don't manage anyone directly. Other industries as well. But maybe you go to some kind of organization, volunteering organization, and after 2 years you were promoted to be the head of your region. Okay, or you just led 5 people in university to do some kind of activity, to give out flyers for the party. But that can supplement, that can show that you have leadership potential. And like I said, hobbies, it's always nice just to be an interesting person. And then if I read your application and say, listen, his GMAT so-so, and he doesn't work in the most interesting place. Wow, he was the national champion in Sudoku? I want to meet this guy. Wow, he read 226 books? That's a lot. Wow, he visited 34 countries? That's interesting. Okay, now, again, not everybody reads 200 and, I don't remember the number, 64 books. And, I don't think I have very interesting hobbies, but I feel like just show who you are as a person, and hopefully that will be enough. So that's a bit about the resume. And again, it's only one page, a very, very important one page, but one page. Now let's go into the very, very long part of the INSEAD application, the essays. Now, I've listed here all the essays. Unfortunately, for someone who's watching this YouTube, we're going to go through all of them. So it's going to be a bit long. And I hope we're okay for time, but we're going to go through all the essays now. Okay, now I'm not going to go through all of them now because I'm going to read them one by one and how to answer them. I'm going to allocate 2 or 3 minutes for each essay. Basically, there's 2 types of essays at INSEAD. There's some job description essays, and there's more of a why MBA and tell me about yourself, like they call them motivation essays. In a nutshell, the job description essays are more straightforward, and the motivation essays are harder because you have to describe yourself, and we'll go over this, but achievements and failures and things like that. So they're definitely quite difficult. My suggestion is just start with the job description essays and just start writing them and see if there's material that gets dropped out of them, and then think if you can use that material for the motivation essay. But because INSEAD's application is so long, my tip for you is just to start. And the way to start is, to tick off some of these 7 to 9 essays with the easier ones, with the straightforward ones. And I'll show you which ones I think are pretty straightforward. Okay, general tips. Okay, my most important general tip: make sure you are answering the question. Okay, you will be surprised how many people write an essay. It's an amazing essay, but it just doesn't answer the question or doesn't answer certain parts of the question. And I'll give you examples as we go along. There's the word limit. Okay, you do not need to use the entire word limit if you don't feel you need to. Okay, INSEAD changed the word limit in some areas last year or 2 years ago, and it was unlimited in the online application. Again, if it's unlimited, you don't need to write 2,000 words. Okay, so use the word limit, and I'll show you. I specified in the last slide the word limit for each essay. Don't over exceed. Don't go over the word limit. There's no reason for it. INSEAD is so long. There's no reason to write more. Obviously, you're here for a reason. You need to promote yourself. I think that goes without saying. And I showed before, school motivation. You have to show that you've done research about INSEAD, but again, don't go over the scope. If you're asked, what are your hobbies? You can't say, my hobby is reading about INSEAD. Okay, I think that's a bit much. I would like to connect some of the stories, some of the essays to the INSEAD community. Okay, so for example, I love running, and I would love to be main part in the running club at INSEAD. Yeah, that's great. And my last tip here is give examples. Okay, so you have to be very specific. What's your biggest achievement? Yes, answer the question, and then give the full story. Okay, don't give just a story. Don't give just the answer. Give both. Okay, so we go through some of the essays, or all of them. Right. So I think the first essay is actually quite straightforward. I call it technical. Okay, it summarizes your current job. And I think when we're talking about your current job, it goes nicely with the resume. Okay, this is what I do. This is kind of quantifiable results of the things I do. Now, again, you have to be a bit careful not to repeat what you're saying in the resume. Okay, and the way to do it is just to be very clear, on what you're answering. And sorry, that's the next essay already, on what you're answering, and just be very clear on what you do, what your responsibilities are, who you speak to, which teams you work with, which other departments you interact with. I like to use the I and the we. Okay, so obviously when you do things, you have to focus on me. I led 3 people. Okay, but as a team, we worked on. Okay, so don't be shy using the we word. Okay, it's a team. They want to check that you know how to work with teams, as well as being very, very impressive. So again, try and sell yourself, and obviously try and show how impressive a job you're doing. But I call this very technical. Just explain what you're doing. Okay, next essay. Again, the job essays are a bit easier. Now they have kind of a tricky question. So if you didn't go to INSEAD, okay, you're not going to INSEAD, and if you were to remain in your current company, what's the position you will do? I think this is also pretty simple. If I remain in my company, I'm going to get promoted, maybe even more than once. If I get promoted, I can think of my boss's job. I can think of my boss's boss's role. Okay, hopefully it's not the CEO yet. And again, a lot of people come from startups. Okay, so obviously that's a problem. If you're the CEO of the startup, you can't think of your boss's role. But what would startups usually do? They would grow, and they would grow how? More geographies, more products. So if you're a product manager at Amazon, I think you want to grow to be a product manager director. If you're a marketing manager, you want to be a marketing manager director. If you're an analyst, you want to be a consultant or a senior analyst. Okay, I think this is quite straightforward, but definitely show that you have some kind of horizon without the MBA as well. Okay, and obviously, if you did take that next job, what would you be doing? What responsibilities? What new ownership you would have in that more senior role? Okay, but pretty straightforward. Okay, so these were, kind of the easier essays. Let's move into a more difficult essay. So this sounds straightforward. Give me a full description of your career to date. But again, they already have your resume, and they can already see. In 2015, I graduated. In 2016, I joined EY. In 2017, this is not what they want to hear. What they want to hear is kind of insights. Why did you choose this specific course in university? Post-university, why did you go and work for Ernst & Young? What's the reason? Okay, why did you move from being a financial analyst to being a strategy consultant? Okay, so you have to explain the moves. It's not just give bullet of what you've been doing. You have the resume for that. It's explain the rationale behind every one of the moves. And because we have so much words in this essay, we also want to kind of explain what you gained in each of the roles that you did. So I was at EY. I learned a lot about finance and real estate. Then I went to work in a real estate company, and I learned a lot about hedging and more about finance, because I work now directly with banks. And then I also moved to the marketing. Okay, so this is what I learned. It's not just what I did, it's more what I learned in each one of the steps. This will be a bit reflectful on what you've done in each one of the places. This will also help you kind of move to the next essay, which is why do you want an MBA? Okay, because if you say, and I've really gained finance and marketing and real estate knowledge, and then when you talk about why MBA, you can talk about, and now my next step is, I want to open a real estate company. Okay, so that will be very nice because we'll see it in that job essay before. Okay, and here we get into the short and long-term career goals. So again, actually, before the first one, I would just say connect it very nicely to what you've been doing till now. Remember, a waiter that became a shift manager that wants to be a restaurant owner, but he needs an MBA because he needs to learn more about finance. Okay, that makes total sense. And that's why these two essays are connected to each other. I usually write them together and then split them up into two essays. I always think, when candidates say, listen, I don't really know what I want to do post-MBA, I just say, close your eyes. Okay, close them together. I'm closing. Think of, where you want to be in 20 years. Okay, CEO of Google. Well, maybe that won't happen. Close them again. Okay, CEO of a tech company. Okay. How can you get to be a CEO of a tech company? Sorry. You need to work in the tech industry for 20 years to do that. So probably your post-MBA job will be a product manager, and your post job would be director. And then you'll go and work in a startup, and then you can be CEO of, okay, so that all makes sense. So first of all, it has to be realistic, but it has to be very clear and specific. Okay, you take an industry, you take a position, and how do you get there from A to Z? How do you become from, a programmer that I was, then I did my MBA, and then how do you become to being a product manager, director, whatever we said, CEO, etc. Okay, so be very clear, very specific, but also realistic. Okay, if you want to be an astronaut in NASA and you've been a restaurant manager till now, that might be a problem. It has to be also a bit realistic. Again, show kind of a direct progression from what you've done in the past, why an MBA, and these career goals. And you also need to show kind of aspirations. I really want to move from real estate to clean tech. And the reason I want to do this shift is when I was working in real estate, I actually helped a lot of energy companies put solar panels on my roofs. And now I want to move to the solar panel company. Okay, so, I showed why I want to do this shift, and I've shown my aspirations because I believe in clean energy or something like that. Okay, so we finished with the job description mandatory essay. There is one optional essay here, which is if you're currently not working. I don't know if there'll be a question about this in the chat, so I'll look soon. But if you're not working, this isn't good. Okay, first of all, I don't want to paint it nicely. It's not good. If you haven't been working for a long period, that's a problem. And I would definitely explain why you're not working. Now, obviously, there's a lot of circumstances. I gave birth 2 months ago. I was fired due to COVID and my company shut down or shut down their operations in my region. Okay, these are very good reasons, but explain them. Okay, and if you're just leaving the, if your resume is empty in this last year and you're not explaining the essay, that's not a good thing. I don't want to. INSEAD get thousands of applications. It's very easy to put you in the no pile. It's just very easy. Give me a reason to put you in the yes pile or in the maybe pile. And the reason will be a very good application that will explain things that I'm suspicious about. Okay, but again, this is optional. Don't use it if you don't need it. Okay? Definitely don't repeat yourself here. Okay? So only if there's something new that you want them to know. Okay. Now we're getting into the motivation essays. This is very difficult essays. These are very difficult essays. I think Stanford have also a very difficult essay, which is like what matters most to you and why. After Stanford's essay, yeah, INSEAD's essays are probably one of the most difficult ones in the in the MBA industry. Okay, give a candid description of yourself. This is a super hard essay because I've just told you four job essays. I've told you everything about me, right? I've told you why I chose university and where I worked and where I want to work in the future. I've told you all that. Now you want a candid description of myself. So this is hard. But remember that INSEAD want to know you professionally, and those were the other essays, academically, and I can see that from your resume and GMAT score. But they also want to understand who you are as a person. I wrote here what makes you tick, okay? And interestingly enough, I think I have a small child, and we were hiring babysitters. Okay, and even that, I was more interested in what makes the babysitter tick than what's her professional experience. Does she have a boyfriend? Will she elope and leave me after 2 days? And it's a bit strange, but INSEAD, think about my babysitter. INSEAD are a bit the same. Who are you? Is there a chance that you'll leave INSEAD after a month? Is there a chance that there's more to you than the professional experience, or less than I can see in the professional experience? Who are you? What makes you tick? Will you manage? Will you be a good student in the class? The way to do it is just to tell your story again, but from a personal perspective. And it has to be very humble. Okay, you can't just blow your own horn and just, me, I'm so good. After I was elected as the best person, I was best. No, it'd be very humble. But again, this has to be telling a story. And the way to do it is just give examples, tell us from your experiences in various places in your experience and in your past. Again, show self-awareness. If you did a mistake, if you chose university, if you went to study law, because everybody studies law, that's fine. Okay, just explain that. Very important. A lot of people have weaknesses. It's fine. INSEAD even want to see your weaknesses. We'll see that soon in the next question. Don't go into this in too much of a depth. Okay, still we want to present you in the best way. Let's just talk about strengths a bit more than the weaknesses. Don't go into more than 2 weaknesses. And again, just use examples, and that's enough. I gave here some good things to use. A lot of people will use interpersonal skills. I love them. Okay, I can work with people from any background because I've traveled. Because these are really good things. Desire to improve. I love that. Okay, so I worked in various organizations, and I always strive to help the organization. So there's a lot of things that you can say which are soft. Okay, they might not have a quantifiable result. I have a sense of humor, but they will explain to the school who you are. Okay. I'm continuing, and I'm just reminding everyone we have 3 more essays. I'll talk a bit about the recommendations, and then I'm staying on the live YouTube chat to answer all your questions. So I think we have another 7 to 10 minutes for this session, and then I'll answer all your questions on the chat. I can see you started writing them. Please continue writing questions. I will answer all of them. Just to continue this question, again, it's a very hard one. It might also be one place, and I'll show you another place as well, to put INSEAD references in. Okay, so I've always strived to lead, and I've taken so many courses in project management, and I would love to give from this experience to the project management club at INSEAD. Out of in my consulting experience, I've actually interviewed many candidates to Accenture. And I would love to support the consulting club in the mock interviews they run for young students. Okay, so this just shows that you want to be engaged, you've done research on INSEAD, and you can add value. Again, this question is so difficult. I really suggest you reread the question once you've written it, and try and ask yourself, is this person interesting? Do I like him as a person? Okay, will he fit? Will he contribute to INSEAD, not just professionally or academically, but as a person? Again, this is a tough essay. Right, this is a straightforward essay that most candidates fall in. And I'll explain to you why. So the first part of this essay is describe an achievement and a failure. Great. Obviously, and I think I mentioned this before, the achievement part can be much longer than the failure part. Okay. Now, the achievement, it's very important to explain why this was a big achievement. Okay, and it sounds strange, but a lot of times I see essays that describe something really interesting. Okay, and in the end, the salesperson made the sale, great. But if he doesn't say this was the first time our company managed to sell to this region, that doesn't explain why this achievement was so great. So explain why the achievement is fantastic. I don't know your company, so I want to know exactly why. Always try and reflect back in hindsight why this achievement was great, why a failure was great. Maybe this achievement helped you then do something different. Maybe discover something about yourself or do something a bit different. Very important. Regarding the failure, again, this is very tricky. I agree. And there's 2 types of failures, right? There's one which is a very silly one. Oh, I worked so hard, so my peers didn't look good. Okay, obviously we can't use something like that. Okay, we need a real failure. The problem with a failure, by the detail, it doesn't make you look good, right? Because you didn't do something as well as you could have done. So what I call it own your failure. Yes, explain that you failed because you did something in a certain way. I would even explain why you did that thing in a certain way. For example, when I joined my company, my boss gave me 10 assignments. I decided to split the time between the 10. I gave 10% of my time to each one of the assignments. After a week, my boss called me and said, hey, our most selling client, our busiest, the most important client, the one that's in charge of 90% of the revenue, is complaining that you're not putting enough time in his assignment. Okay, so my failure was I didn't split my time. Why am I doing air quotes? My real failure was I wasn't splitting my time in the optimal way. Okay, I didn't know that because my boss didn't tell me, but that was my failure. What would be my lesson learned from that? I would ask my boss how to split my time. I would rethink how do I split my time. Maybe it should be 80-20, 80% to the important accounts, 20% to less important accounts. So I own my failure. I know where I failed. I wouldn't do it again. I've learned a lot from that. And maybe at INSEAD, I'll go to the time management course as well, and I will get even better at this specific area where I feel I'm not so good. Okay, now you might remember this essay actually had 2 follow-up questions. Apart from the achievement and failure, they also asked how these experiences impact your relationships with others, and do you want to comment on what you learned? So I touched on what you learned, but I didn't touch the relationships. This is vital because I see so many essays answering, here are my 2 achievements and here are my 2 failures. Goodbye. You just forgot 50% of the essay. Okay, so don't forget it. When we say how do these experiences impact your relationship, great, okay, because my failure was I used to do my work, but I didn't get buy-in from another team. And how did it impact it? It impacted tremendously. I made a whole point out of knowing the other team and knowing what they're working on and knowing what their schedule is. So if I ever need to involve them again, I can understand why they're too busy to help me on Wednesdays. Okay, so it affected the interaction with other teams or the way I collaborate because I did a mistake. I just gave them assignments instead of understanding what their other assignments are, or instead of telling them the high-level picture, etc., etc. What you learned is vital. For every failure, they want to see that you learned something. Okay, so remember my example. My boss gave me 10 assignments. I split them up evenly. But I learned a lot. I learned I shouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that retrospectively. I learned so much. I need to speak to my boss on a daily basis. I need to split my assignments differently. I need to understand for my clients what's important for them. I need so many lessons learned here. Okay, and again, you can connect this to the INSEAD various opportunities. I'm going to drink my tea and we'll look at the next one. Okay, we're nearly done. So whoever has questions can start asking them or continue asking them. Extra professional activities. Okay, so extracurricular, outside of job and outside of academics. I call this also quite a straightforward essay. Okay, what we want to see is volunteering. We want to see sports. We just want to see that you're well-rounded. Okay, now there's no right and wrong here. If you haven't volunteered because you do a lot of sports, that's fine. If you don't do any sports, that's fine as well. I just want to see that you have something. I said dry biscuit before. That you're not a dry biscuit. You have something beyond your academics and something beyond your professional experience. That's all. And if you list 2 or 3 or 4 things here, that would be great. Just want to see what you do in your spare time. What makes you tick? Okay, being enriched, I wrote here. Yes, all very important. Feel free to read all my bullets. And remember, it's a good place to connect to the INSEAD, to INSEAD opportunities. For example, in my spare time, I love photography. Luckily, INSEAD has a photography club, and I would love to help the fellow INSEADs that are not interested today in photography understand why it's such a great habit, because you can learn a lot of taking a picture of a certain scenario and then analyzing it. And there's also art and also science and the light. And okay, so if you explain and you connect it to one of the INSEAD opportunities, that would be amazing. I gave you lots of examples, but again, sports, NGOs, volunteering, board game night, walking on the beach, that's fine as well, okay, as long as it's interesting. And there's another optional essay. Now, in most of the schools, I recommend strongly to use the optional essay, in case you have extra stuff to say. London Business School has only 1 essay. Stanford have only 2 essays. So their optional essay is a great room to put additional information. INSEAD has 7 mandatory essays. It's actually quite rare to use the optional essay. So don't have to use it. Only use it if you're saying something new. Okay, that you can't repeat something, it's just too boring. So I wrote here, don't push something, don't push more achievements, don't push more failures, only if there's something very important. I think I said here, if you have some kind of entrepreneurship experience, which is maybe completely in parallel to your CV, to your professional experience, and you didn't find a place to discuss it, which is quite rare because you had 7 essays to discuss it, so you can put it here. Okay, but generally speaking, optional is really optional, and there aren't a lot of cases where you use them. Okay, so that was the essays part. I tried to do it really quick. I'm sure it took half an hour. I didn't even check. So we'll just talk about the recommendations, and then I'll answer any questions that you have. Again, INSEAD asks for 2 recommendations. They really prefer 2 recommenders, and the recommenders will submit 2 recommendations. INSEAD really have a preference for professional recommendations. That means not academic ones. I have used academic references in the past. I've also used references from extracurricular activities. Okay, I had this guy, super interesting. he worked for Apple, and before that, he worked for Intel. Okay, great brands, a lot of experience, and the experience kind of spoke for itself. This guy had a very interesting sport activity. He used to, I don't even know how you call it, he used to lie down for a long time with a gun, and you shoot one bullet. Okay, so sorry whoever does that, but this was his activity, and he used to practice shooting twice a week for 10 years. Okay, it's an Olympic sport, yes, you practice shooting, and he used to do this twice a week for 10 years, and we kind of decided together that his Intel and Apple experience kind of talk the talk by themselves. So we brought one recommender from his current employer, which was Apple, but we also brought his trainer from his extracurricular activity. So that's a very rare example. Usually we will take professional recommendations. INSEAD will usually tell you we prefer direct managers. That means don't bring an impressive title person, he's the CEO. Bring someone who knows you from a daily basis. Now, a good recommendation would be very subjective. Okay, I manage 10 people, Shimri is the best. Okay, I've hired 10 people in the past. It was clear that he's the sharpest. Okay, that's very subjective. There's no way to measure that. But I'm the recommender. I can say that. Now, these are things that you can't say on your resume or on your essays. But your recommender, yeah, he can say that. Obviously, you can look for recommenders who can supplement things that are not on your resume or in your essays. For example, if you don't have any leadership experience, but your manager will say, and when I left for maternity leave, I gave Shimri a lot of responsibilities. That's something impressive. Try and find two recommenders who might supplement different areas of your candidacy. I put here a tip. I think it's quite obvious. Choose good recommenders that you trust, and you can help them to help you. What does that mean? I don't know. Send them some bullets. Okay. Have a discussion with them before they're going to write the recommendation. Make sure that they're the right recommenders for you. Make sure that they're going to be okay writing, good stuff about you. Maybe they're not so happy from your performance. Don't choose them. So you have to find out about this, before you choose recommenders. It's not very common to tell INSEAD that you want a recommender and then to try and replace him. And just to be honest, if there's one of the questions in the chat, all these components are important. INSEAD is a very tough school to get into. If one of the recommendations is not good, if they say Shimri was not a very good employee and I had to fire him, you will not get into INSEAD. Okay, so all these components are important, also the recommendations. So guys, we actually finished. Because this presentation was so long, I didn't talk about the interview at all. I'll record next week another whole session about the INSEAD interview. So I'm putting them aside for now. And I only wanted to touch in this specific session the INSEAD application itself and my points about how to get into INSEAD. So first of all, if someone wants to drop, thank you very much. It was a bit long, but I hope we covered lots of things. You have my details here. Please check us out on aringo.com. There's a lot of information there on the INSEAD page and on other pages. We also have a chances calculator, a return on investment calculator, MBA cost calculator. So there's lots of resources on our site, aringo.com. You have my email here. I'm very happy to give specific profile reviews and additional information. If you do shoot me an email, I would love to see your GMAT score. No GMAT, no MBA. And your resume, even if it's not an MBA resume, just get to know you. So that's a bit about me. I'm going to leave the slide open. And I'm going to start answering questions from the chat. And thank you so much. I can see lots and lots of questions. So I'm just going to go through them. I promise to answer all of them. So I think at halfway, we answered half the questions. I'm going to start continuing from there. Okay. Any suggestions for people applying for their second MBA? That's such a good question. And I haven't done statistics about it, but I think 5 to 10% of my applicants have a previous MBA. It's very, very important to explain to INSEAD why you need another MBA. Because my previous MBA was a part-time MBA, was a local MBA. I did it at the beginning of my career. Now I have 6 years of professional career. they didn't have a course in entrepreneurship, and okay, you have to explain to INSEAD why that MBA was not enough. But just between us, or between everybody, this is a problem that you have. It's not a problem. It's something that you have to address. Don't just leave it there. Do candidates from India require a TOEFL? No. For non-native English speakers, yes, you require a GMAT, which will be also a threshold to get into INSEAD, and also about 30% of your total application. But you'll also require a TOEFL or IELTS score to show INSEAD that you can speak English in a good enough level. This doesn't go into your 100 points of your application. This is a yes, no. Are you good enough, etc. So again, I'm going to answer all the questions here. You can keep asking questions on YouTube. Okay, there's some. Is French Spanish knowledge mandatory? It's not mandatory because studies are in English. Okay, but you there is a language course that you need to take. It's one of the first courses, and you will probably learn a bit of French or Spanish, but you don't need to know French or Spanish in any way before INSEAD. Someone's asking when their letters of recommendations have to be submitted. So again, they are submitted before the deadline, and this is part of the application. I think I discussed that it's preferable to bring professional experience. Wow, GMAT Club liked this video. Thanks, guys. Very long video. I think this is the longest one we've ever done. Okay. Someone's asking if they did their undergraduate in India, in English, do they need a TOEFL or IELTS? No. Okay, very simple answer. Does it make a difference between the round? And this is such a good question. Thanks about that. And it's something I didn't discuss, so it gave me something to think about when I do this presentation again. INSEAD have two streams. Remember, you can start studying in September or you can start studying in January. I didn't discuss the differences in depth. Mainly, the main difference is the January stream at the end of the stream has a 2-month internship opportunity, and the September stream in the classic way does not have an internship opportunity. Okay, apart from that, the studies are identical. Each of these streams has 4 rounds. Okay, and round 1 and round 2 usually for September, so let's say September 22, round 1 will be in September 21, round 2 will be in November 21. Round 1 for January will be in March and in May. Okay, and then 2 months later will be the round 3 and then later round 4. Round 1 and round 2 are bigger. I've spoken to INSEAD admissions many times. They assure me that the chances in all the rounds are kind of similar. I kind of believe them because round 3 and round 4 have less candidates. But still, if you're ready in round 1 or round 2, applying round 1 and round 2, I think the chances are a bit higher. There's definitely more chance for waitlist. So if the school doesn't know what to do with you and is kind of putting you aside on the waitlist, they won't do that in round 4 because they already know what's happening with the class. There's more chance for scholarships. So always apply as early as you can. On the flip side, only apply when you're ready. So round 3 beats round 1 and 2 with 20 extra GMAT points. Okay, so if you're not ready, if your application isn't maximized in round 1 or 2, yeah, apply in round 3 or even in round 4. Long answer for a short question. Someone's asking about they started their business venture and it's 3 years old. Okay, is that work experience? Of course, I love entrepreneurs. And if you work in your own company, you know, that's if you work in your own company, yeah, definitely go for, you know, that's work experience. That's fine. Okay, whatever's outside of your education that you've done full time and you got some kind of salary for it, even if it's your own venture, that's work experience. I've had government officials, army people, entrepreneurs, real estate investors. Yeah, all these are fine. Okay, someone like my dry biscuit. Good. I'll start using that a lot. I like that as well. Someone's asking, are the essay prompts the same every year? So great question. Luckily for us, they have been in the last X amount of years. I've been at ARINGO 7 years full time. Same essays. Because INSEAD have these streams back to back kind of thing, there's always kind of a round of to apply. So now it's round 2 of January 2022, and you know, in 2 months, it'll be round 3, and 2 months later, it will be already round 1. So there's always a round. They won't change the essays very quickly, but you're right. Before you start answering the essays, please log into INSEAD, start your application, make sure these are the essays. Okay, great question. Someone's asking me about 10 years of experience, and I think I touched that. It's hard to say without seeing your exact profile. But generally speaking, 10 years and above is starting to be problematic. 12 years and above is very problematic. And I've had candidates with 12, 13 years that received a nice email from INSEAD saying, "You're a great candidate. Why don't you consider our executive MBA," which is a part-time degree, something completely different. So 10 years is starting to be problematic. If you have 10 years or reaching 10 years, apply now if you're serious. Because every year now, your chances are getting lower and lower. But again, in theory, you still have a chance. Okay, if someone has a gap in some kind of work experience, it's a couple of months, I think that makes sense. Okay, so I had an internship, then it took me 3 months to find a job. Then I was fired, okay, because there were cuts in my team. And then it took me another 4 months to find a job. That's okay. If you had a 2-year gap, that's a problem. So if there's a big gap, explain it. If there's a short gap, again, if it's a month or 2 and there's one gap, maybe don't even explain it. If it's bigger than that, use that optional essay. Are there any gaps in your it's actually not gaps. It's if you're not currently working, so use that essay or use that essay for gaps. Someone's asking, can you get into investment banking after MBA? Definitely. Historically, MBAs used to send 3 areas, which used to be consulting, investment banking, and all the rest. I think tech is huge right now. In some schools, the biggest industry. In INSEAD, the second biggest industry. Investment banking would be the 3rd industry. Okay, so finance, investment banking, definitely, yes. A very, very big percentage of post-MBA INSEAD graduates go to investment banking. Wow. Someone has 750 GMAT. First of all, well done. 7 years of experience. Good. Now, a lot of candidates do not have international work experience, and it is what it is. How to overcome that? That's one pillar out of different pillars. Be interesting, be professional, have good academics, show extracurricular, write great essays, have good recommendations. That will help you. Use ARINGO, we're very good. So a lot of candidates don't have international experience, and still they get into INSEAD. How? Again, they will get a low score in international experience, but a high score in the other areas. Do INSEAD use automatic software to screen applicants? I never, ever had this question before. So first of all, you get 2 points because I've never had that question before. The simple answer is no. The more complicated answer is, I'm sure they're considering it. And Kira Talent, which is the company that provide the video interview essay for INSEAD, are offering various ways to analyze a video interview. Still, the 10 or the 7 to 9 INSEAD essays, the 2 recommendations, your resume, your online application will be reviewed at least once by a real person. And again, the way it works is someone will review it, put it in a basket of maybe, then someone will review it, will put it in a basket of interview. Then when you pass your interview, your interviewers will also review your application at INSEAD. And so yeah, it will definitely be reviewed. Someone asked, does it help to connect to INSEAD alumni, or should you connect to AdComs? Yes. You want to show school motivation. You want to show that you've done research at INSEAD. You want to show that you're interested in INSEAD. What a better way than, after speaking to Shimri Winters, MBA 2010, he suggested I speak to, that shows you're interested in the school. That shows you've done research. So good question. And, I'm actually writing that to myself. That's a very good question. I like that. Will this session be posted afterwards? Well, it's on YouTube, so you can watch it anytime. Great. We're getting closer with the questions. I hope this is okay. Someone's saying he's an INSEAD and lived through the full experience. He loved it. Yay! Great. Sorry, you, she, he. I'm so happy you loved your INSEAD experience. And I really like the example here because this person is saying he joined INSEAD after 10 years of professional experience at the age of 34. Great. I love that. I also had at London Business School, all the candidates, but not many 39-year-olds with 15 years of experience. That's why I said 10 years, explain to INSEAD why you want an MBA. It's still okay, 11, 12, fine. But your chances are getting lower and lower the more you wait. Okay. Okay, so someone has lots of certifications. Okay, Scrum Master certifications. Whoever knows what Scrum is, great. And PMP, project management, great. And Six Sigma, I love it. And lots of online certificates. Yes, can this help? Yes. This shows that this differentiates you, right? It shows you have lots of certifications, lots of academic ambitions. Okay, no one told you to do X amount of certificate, but you sat online 100 hours and did a certificate. I love it. I think it shows a lot. Okay. There's questions about the campus experiences. Again, I think this is very subjective. I've actually seen in recent years kind of half-half, people that are choosing to start at Singapore and people are choosing to be at Fontainebleau. Like, this is your own preference. But again, my preference, do both plus an exchange somewhere, all good. So if your GPA isn't so good, okay, that's fine. It's just one of the factors. Okay, so don't overstress it. Continue with the other factors. Have a good GMAT. CPA. I love CPAs. All good. It's a very difficult exam, and it definitely shows that you're very academic. So if you have a CPA or any other certificates, this is good. Can someone mention in the extracurriculars that they're attending a lot of NCR events? So I think I mentioned this as a joke before, so it was a joke. Okay, one of your extracurriculars cannot be I attend NCR webinars, no, but you can definitely mention that somewhere in the application. Okay, I've attended so many NCR webinars. I feel I really know the school. I've watched a video about NCR with Shimri Winters. This just shows school motivation. Okay. Thanks. I can see there's some NCR alumni answering kind of some questions as well. I love that. So I finished answering all the questions, I hope. I'm going to stay around in case there's another question or two, but I'm at the end of your list. I hope you did, whoever wants to drop off. I hope you did enjoy this session. And again, we also recorded a session a few weeks ago, INSEAD versus LBS. Check that out on GMAT Club YouTube channel. Just put in YouTube INSEAD versus LBS. That's a fun and interesting video. Me fighting with an INSEAD graduate about which school is better. I think he won at some stage. I really enjoy this. I'll also record an INSEAD interview video very shortly. And in a couple of weeks, we also have an LBS video, so check that out as well. Thank you, GMAT Club, for hosting us. You have my contact details here if anyone's interested in hearing more about how to get into INSEAD. And thank you very much. I will answer the last question, then I'll say thank you. What's the scope of accepting an Indian lawyer into INSEAD? So, not sure what the question is. I love lawyers. A lot of my clients are lawyers. If you come from India, great. So definitely an overrepresented candidate pool, and a lot of Indian candidates will apply to INSEAD. But again, not many lawyers. So you can show how unique you are. You worked in a certain company. You worked in on a certain project. Lots of achievements, should be fine. That was the lawyer question. What GMAT score to get for an Indian male? Well, same answer for any person. Okay, the average is 711. I wouldn't apply with less than 660. Okay, Indian male engineers. Let's go to a more stereotyping background. Yes, there's a lot of candidates like that. If you have a very special profile, maybe 660, 670, 680 is enough. If your profile is quite usual, maybe you need 750. So I don't really know. It goes hand in hand with your profile. But again, I probably would aim for 700 plus. Okay. And I think that was it for me. I hope it was kind of helpful, a bit long. And thanks a lot, GMAT Club, again. And let's sign this session off. See you in future sessions. Bye for now.